In Bristol, they started bringing in these schemes. They started with a so-called consultation for the schemes a couple of years ago, and it came to the point in the autumn of 2024 last year that they started to try to implement the first one, which is in East Bristol. What they call it, the East Bristol Livable Neighbourhood, livable neighbourhood. Um, so as soon as they started to implement it just kicked off in that area because people had not realised what was going to hit them, even though the council claimed that they had consulted several times very thoroughly and sent out 5 pieces of correspondence to every household in the area and every business. Most people had not actually realised what was going on. So although we had, as part of, because I'm part of what I'm doing now is being helping with the campaign group Keep Bristol Moving, which is a kind of offshoot from the Together group, the local Together group. We were trying to raise awareness about it for the last couple of years, but it's only really been since they started, well, basically since they closed a road in East Bristol. As soon as they closed that road, they haven't managed to close any other roads yet. As soon as they closed that road, all hell broke loose because people suddenly couldn't get to where they needed to get to on time. Their journeys were taking much longer. They had to go around much longer ways to get to work, to get to take their kids to school, to visit relatives, to get to their activities, whatever they were. So a group in East Bristol, which is kind of connected with us, but they've got their own separate thing going on. They started up a Facebook group, which has reached 3,000 members, and local people have been protesting about it and preventing the contractors from doing the work when they've come to do it, to either put in planters or to set up the cameras. So, and it's particularly interesting because the council, which claims to be inclusive and diverse and all that, has been totally ignoring the needs of particularly people with disabilities in the area who've been very vocal about it, about what it's doing to them, and minority groups. Like there's a fairly large Somali community of people who are mostly refugees from Somalia living in the area, and they are also very upset about it and have largely been ignored. Yes, it's 3 separate areas: Redfield, Barton Hill, and St George. So they're quite varied areas too. Some are a bit more like working class, some are more middle class, but it is a large area, and it covers also various parks. So there are green spaces already there. There are a lot of like narrow streets where cars have to park along the street, so it makes them very difficult to drive along anyway. Um, there are issues with the area, and in a way, it's good. The council is saying they want to do something about it, but they're approaching it in completely the wrong way. Yeah, so what the council have said is that they want to introduce 2 of these schemes per year. That's what their ambition was. That was under the former mayor, Marvin Rees, who was a Labour mayor. We don't have a mayor anymore because his position was voted out, and we have a committee system which is run largely by the Greens, but it doesn't matter which party is in charge. They're all doing it. Ideally, the councillors who are pushing this through would start actively listening to the needs of people who are objecting to it, rather than telling them that they're not thinking straight, and they're being too naive, and they're not understanding that it will all even out in the end and the traffic will just evaporate. There's apparently a phenomenon called traffic evaporation. So until they start properly to listen, what they're doing at the moment is they're kind of throwing socks at the situation by saying, oh, we'll give you vouchers for bus fares for the next year, and we will let people with blue badges through on one of their vehicles into their residential area. After all, we weren't going to, but we're going to. So, and they haven't done that with any negotiation with the people objecting to it. So they really need to start engaging with people and listening to them. But ultimately, I would say that none of this is going to change until the agendas from much further up change, because this is not just in Bristol, it's happening, as you say, all over the country. And it's coming from a place of wanting to restrict our mobility, not just our motored mobility, but I would say since COVID, our mobility generally, because they've seen what they can do. And of course, it's coming under the umbrella of the agenda of net zero. So we've got all that behind it as well. And until people wake up to what's going on there, I think that very little will change. The councils will still just try as much as they can to push these things through. If they're in Bristol, they can definitely go along to join in any protests in East Bristol, particularly when they're occurring. That they can join the Facebook group, which is Stop the East Bristol Livable Neighbourhood Facebook group, where they'll find information about that. In East Bristol, they have almost weekly meetings in Cafe Conscious in Barton Hill, which they can find out about in the Facebook group as well on Tuesday evenings. If anyone has time and energy to spare, there are a few people in our Keep Bristol Moving group who are distributing flyers in the South Bristol area, which you mentioned, which is an even bigger area, South Bristol. They could do with some help distributing flyers. They're trying to flyer every household and every business in the area. So those are two things. Writing letters to councillors, putting in statements and questions to council meetings when they come up, which is what we're all trying to do already. And just following us on Facebook, following us on X. We have a presence there. It's not very frequent, but we do have a presence there. And also we have a website, keepbristolmoving.com, which you can sign up. There's an email address there. You can sign up and receive updates through that as well. So on the East Bristol side, there's the Stop the East Bristol Livable Neighbourhood Facebook group, which is the big one. Then we also have a Keep Bristol Moving Facebook cause page, which you can look up. I didn't mention that just now, but that's also there. And a Keep Bristol Moving Twitter or X, which is under Bristol Moves. That's the X. And then we have the website, keepbristolmoving.com.